Hey everybody, it is Rollie, and we are coming to you with a special edition of Chatting with Wisdom. So I am just adding this to a couple of other spots so that I can share it out there. So if you're catching the replay, #replay, and welcome to this Friday edition of Chatting with Wisdom. So today I am here with Robin, who is with Team Rollie. And so, Robin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm actually part of Team Rollie, and I just figured we'd, as a team, kind of crash and take over Chatting with Wisdom because we want to have fun with you, Rollie. And, we see you building everybody else up, and it's time that we kind of say, hey, how about you? So we're going to take over today and have some fun getting to know you, your perspective, your favorites. Just get to know you a little bit and just kind of chat with you if you don't mind.
Absolutely. That sounds like it's going to be really fun. So, as most of the people who do follow me, so anybody who's new, one of the things that if you do follow me and have been following me for a while, I am very much whatever it is that comes up for me is what comes up for me, and that's kind of where I kind of go with things. So, so this is going to be fun.
No, I thought it'd be fun. It's kind of like when you think about Santa's workshop and the elves taking over the show, right? So we're going to take over the show. Da-dun. But anyhow, let's have some fun. What is your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue. And so I try really, really hard to wear other colors other than blue so that I have like a mash of colors. If I have to pick a second favorite color, it would be green, but blue is my absolute favorite color.
So you do better than I do because mine is blue as well. And if you look at my closet, it's like this big chunk of blue and maybe one or two colors here. So better than me.
And that's what my closet used to look like.
Oh,
and it was like, oh, I guess I kind of get to find some other colors. So I would put on different, when my grandmother was alive, my grandmother would, I lived with my grandmother, and one of the things that she would say is that I would come out and I'd be wearing something blue, and she's like, do you not own anything else? We're going shopping. It's like, but my mare, I like this. I don't want to get something else.
That's funny. Yeah, I know when we go shopping, every time I grab something and show my husband, and isn't this pretty? It's always blue. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, and what am I wearing? Blue, right? Go figure. All right. So, what is your favorite time of the year? What season?
My favorite time of the year is spring and summer. And so it's a combination of both, but spring, definitely that new renewal, that kind of thing. But I love the heat. So I absolutely love summer.
So you're not digging the winter right now?
No. I never have. And so I'm the type of person who literally I run from the vehicle to the house, to the house, to the vehicle. That's like pretty much it. If I don't have to go out, you're not going to catch me out.
So you don't go out and build some snowmen in the winter?
Not usually. If I have little people around, then I might, depending on how super, super warm it is, but not often.
Oh, okay. So we won't find you in a sleigh ride either then?
Not typically, no.
Awesome. All right. So tell me about, and tell all of listeners that maybe don't know about you, why the feather? What happened with the feather?
So the feather comes from my spirit name. So Gigodo Megwinkwe is my spirit name, and it means talking feather woman. And so when I was gifted my name by an elder, one of the things that, so he had given me my name, and this part is like super funny because I'm in my head a lot. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm in my head a lot. And so he gives me my name, and he gives me the translation of what the name means. And all that's going through my head is, oh my God, he thinks I talk too much. So everything that I've been doing, he just thinks that I talk way too much. And like, that's why I've got this name. And that's all that's going through my head. So I'm like being very courteous and thanking him. And I had already offered him my tobacco, but then I offered him my thanks. And I was getting ready to leave. And he said, just a minute, Spirit has something else for you. And so I'm like, and all I want to do is get out of the room because like I'm like, oh my God, he just thinks I talk too much. I just want out. And so then I'm like, okay. So then I stop and I'm like, okay. And so then he hands me this feather. And so in our tradition is that when we are gifted a feather, it is with great honor. And so the fact that that I was gifted this feather was like, oh, okay, this has, and then again, my brain's going a mile a minute, and it's like, okay, so this means like this is very honorable, and I'm definitely honored to have this this feather. But again, the other side of my brain is still going on about the fact that I talk too much, and so then I'm like, okay. But then I took the feather, and for a number of years, I actually had put it in a file folder and put it in my filing cabinet, and it stayed there for years. And mainly because I was afraid of dishonoring the feather. Like that was a big, huge thing for me. It was about being not being able to hold up to its standards of having been gifted this feather. And so then I took it and I put it aside and I had left it there. And I think it was probably, because now I can't remember how long ago. So I'm thinking that it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago that I actually literally pulled out the feather and said, okay, I need to start using this feather. It is time for me to start using this feather. And it was just a wave of like, okay, it's time. It's time for me to go get it. So then I went back and I dug it out. And of course, the file folder had got pushed in through several places by the time that I actually got to it, because I had been adding extra stuff into the filing cabinet. And so then when I pulled out the feather, it was like, okay, so this is what I need to be doing. And so then we had a local native shop in the area. And so then I went and found a cover for it. It's not a cover. It's a fold, like, I can't even think of what it's called, but it's, it folds in half and you set your feather inside it. And so then I got that so that I can actually hold my feather in there so that if I was traveling, that it allows me to be able to use it and have it present. And so with the teachings that we've had is that people are not supposed to use your feather. However, because I do a lot of teaching, and so I allow people to use my feather. I allow people to touch my feather, and I have intentions of any tools that I use with regards to being able to teach and share my knowledge is that that I set the intention with Spirit or God or the universe, whoever it is that you believe, is that they will always keep them pure and of good heart and for all the good of all, so that it doesn't hold anyone's negativity. It doesn't hold anyone else's anything that has a situation that's going on, is that it doesn't carry on to my what's referred to as our bundles. And so, but yeah, so like that's where the name came from. And so I had, so a few years ago, my friend Nikki, she was actually getting things set up with my website, my original website, and getting things going. And she said, okay, so do you have a feather? And I said, like a picture of a feather that you use all the time. And I said, no, but I have my feather. And so then she's like, okay, well, can you take a picture of it? And so she took a picture of it. And so then that's how my logo came to be, is so like, this is my feather. This is the feather that came to me with my name and who I am. And so it is now my logo. And so I'm very thankful for Nikki for having been able to use that creativity to be able to pull it forward. So I had taken some pictures and she did a fantastic job of being able to give me that opportunity to use it.
That's awesome. And I love it. I think it's a great, I just think it's a great image. So, but story's even better. But you did the same thing I would have done. Oh, am I talking too much? What's going on? Oh my gosh, So, because that brain keeps going while you're listening, and yeah. So
well, and grandmother teachings have had. So I've had a grandmother who she provided a teaching, and I happened to be there because I was there and I was talking and I was asking all the questions. And so grandmother Roberta had said to us in this teaching was, sometimes we need to just come to the table and just be quiet and be still and not say anything. And so not asking questions, just listening and absorbing and connecting. And then she had looked over at me and she smiled because she knows my story of my spirit name. And so she just looked at me and she smiled. And I said, if you're expecting me never to ask questions, that'll never happen. It's just not in my nature.
No, but that you got to ask questions. I think we need to be asking more questions, honestly. So, but how fun! I mean, that's awesome to know. And I know your stories on the website, but sometimes it's better to hear you tell it, because obviously it's more entertaining and we get more out of it. Because now we get to hear those voices in your head, where on your just writing it out doesn't. So I have a question that a lot of people have been wondering. When you talk about holistic life, what does that mean to you?
So the holistic life is, so anybody again who knows my story knows that I come from a background of mental health. And so, and not just mental health from a professional perspective, but also from a personal perspective. So from at a very young age, I had struggled with anxiety. And so for as young as far back as I can remember, but as early as the age of 6, is that I struggled with a lot of anxiety. And that was something that was really difficult for me to be able to have. And actually it probably goes back to even when I was 5, because I have I have 3 younger sisters, but I have a sister who is 10 months younger than me. And so she was in junior kindergarten and I was in senior kindergarten. And so my responsibility was to make sure that my sister got home to school and got home safely from school. And we didn't live far from the school. We lived, I think, 3 houses down from the school, but you had to come around because there was the fence was at the end of our road. So you had to go all the way around, and which was still not that far. And so I had, but it was my responsibility to make sure that she got home from school safely. And I was at school and I was trying to find my sister and I couldn't find her anywhere. I couldn't find her. I came home bawling. And my mom said, like, what's the matter? And it's like, I can't find my sister. She's missing. I don't know where she is. And I've looked all over the place. And she's like, she's here. She's home and she's safe. And it was like, and that was like a really big indicator to my mom for my mom to realize that I can't be responsible for my younger sister, that my sister. And when I was in junior kindergarten, I was able to walk from school by myself. Like, it wasn't a big deal, except for that it was just that anxiety provoking. And so for me, the having anxiety is all about having different tools that I can actually use that don't force me to have to use medication. So not that I never use medication, and I have, and I will whenever it is that I need to. I have been without medication now for 3 years. And simply because I find other tools that I can actually use that allow me to be able to manage the situations that I have going on. Not to say that my anxiety never peaks, or that it's 100% anxiety free. I do definitely still have anxiety and I still work through that, but that holistic approach allows me to be able to find different means of being able to deal with life from a holistic perspective. So you doing things like using our sauna, using the essential oils, using crystals, and using different types of psychotherapy strategies and so all the things that I introduce to my clients are things that I use. So there isn't anything that I introduce that I haven't already used or tried. Some work better than others for me, but I still introduce them to people and I still share that with people. So, so Cindy said it's a protective case, and good morning. So she's talking about the feather thing, but there's another name for it. I can't remember what it is though, and I will remember after we're off the live. So I can't remember what it is, but it's a special case specifically that protects the feather. Thanks, Cindy. Good morning.
So what's really cool is I know you talked about the stones, and I did pick up the Advent calendar with the stones. And I have to tell you guys, these things I've opened 2. I haven't opened 3 yet. What was this one? 1? This was 1. But these stones, I don't know, where's the camera? These stones are absolutely gorgeous. And I know I asked you the other day, what do I do with these? And then you talked about just being in the room with them, in your pocket, in your bra, and everything. So I have to really applaud you on this one, because I've never heard of this. I've heard of a lot of stones and crystals and that, but the fact that Rollie actually gives you a card in it, and I know you can't read that on the camera, that tells you what the stone is and what it's used for. I am learning so much from you through a stone. Yep. So that's for anybody out there that got this. I know you're loving it as much as I am. I just have to get a little bowl or something put on the desk to put them in. Because right now they're just going back in the bag, and I still have day 3. I'll open it when we're done. But these are amazing, and the stones are cold. Yep. They don't really seem to warm up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it depends, right? So some people will notice that some people will actually notice heat radiating from them. So yes, the touch of the stone itself is cool, but so if you're actually, sometimes people will actually feel the energy. So I can feel the pulsating right here. So if I'm moving my hand back and forth, I can feel that pulsing from the energy of the stone. So if I come in closer, it feels like it's adding a little bit of pressure, not pressure as in hurting kind of pressure, but you can actually feel that it's actually that I can feel that I'm entering into that space of the crystal.
Okay. Well, that's just like the doing Tai Chi and Qigong, where you end up doing it and you can feel that energy in your hand.
Yes, exactly.
But
right. So
it's awesome. And I know if you guys aren't following on the marketplace with Rollie and everybody involved, you have to get over there, because so much I've learned by just your post on there. You are just, it's kind of like if you guys ever wanted to know anything about stones, crystals, cards, all this stuff, we have our expert right here, because it's just giving away this information. And I'm like, oh, what do you do with that? And she tells us exactly what to do with it. So this has been such an amazing learning experience, and your wealth of knowledge that you freely give out. Lives are changing, which is, I believe our purpose here is to empower and help people better their life, but by doing that, our life is better. So I just see just the power that you have behind what you're doing is changing these lives. And some of your clients and some of the groups, just chatting with them through email when they need help, or even being on a couple of the calls, it's powerful work. And how awesome that you don't have to take that medication. You may have to at some point, but like you said, for the most part, you don't.
And like I said, at some point I may. So it depends on what's happening in my life. But for the last 3 years, I have not had to, which is amazing. And so Cindy says, we are super blessed to have Rollie with us. She is an awesome teacher and friend. Thank you, Cindy.
And I have to second that. And, I know I'm just part of the team. I'm not, a friend, a client, all this other stuff, but I am blessed to be on your team and be here to support you and all of your amazing clients that I've encountered so far. So what a great run, just hanging out and learning all this stuff, and being in your presence, I guess, would be a good thing. So it's just because so many people, I think, discredit the value to mental health. We think if we're physically okay, everything's good, we've got money, we've got a house. But if internally we're not okay, we're not okay. Yep. It's an all-encompassing picture of the body, because it's all connected. So you're bringing in that piece that so many disregard.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not okay in your head, you've got stress, you've got anxiety, you worry too much, all of this stuff, we need to heal that. And I will tell you that you can't just do it on your own. You've got to find somebody to help you with that. And so far, what I've seen that Rollie does is amazing. So just keep helping them one at a time. And I know there's stories because I see it all over the site and in our files, that stories of people whose lives have changed because they invested in themselves by investing in one of your programs. But with that, I know we've got a huge, people are excited. There's a buzz out there, but we've got a big deal happening Sunday. And I kind of wanted to dig in a little bit about the why and Soulful Life Hacks. Where did that come from?
So Soulful Life Hacks comes from, we had and it just kind of came to me. So Soulful Life Hacks, the program itself, came with me sending out a message to my audience and said, hey, I'm thinking about this program because everybody that I've been talking to have been really struggling with finding a way of how to kind of be okay. And there's just so many different things that are happening. And so how can we come together? So I had said, I don't know what the program is going to look like. And, but if you're willing to jump on board, then come and join me. And so I had 6 beautiful ladies that came on board and joined me in that, that opening part of it. Then it was like, okay, so this is what I'm thinking. So yay, nay. And so then they gave some feedback as to what it is that they thought would be good. And so then it was really awesome because they changed up some of the things that I had thought would be like the most important things. And so the most important thing are our weekly sessions. So like, yes, I have a whole bunch of other things that people can access and then they can apply and use in their everyday life, but it's the weekly sessions. So we have weekly group sessions. And people go like, oh no, group, like that's another whole other thing, but it's all about being able to come together and figuring out how to be able to navigate whatever it is that we are going through from week to week. And so some people come every week, some people come every so often. It all depends on people's schedule and what works. And then we have our core group that come together every single week and look forward to every single week, even if they have nothing that they want to address that week. They still come because then we all still get something from it, including me. And so we all get something from it. And so we were actually having a conversation. So on Wednesday on our call. And what was really interesting is one of the ladies had said, we were just talking kind of off camera. We were still on camera, but we weren't recording anymore. And so we were just having a conversation after we were done. And one of the things that I had commented on was the growth that the women who have actually been there from the beginning, and as to what they've done and how they've grown and the different things that have happened for them. And so I was commenting on that. And one of the ladies said, and even when we don't have anything to talk about, Rollie still seems to know how to be able to get us talking. And this particular person doesn't talk a whole lot. And so then whenever I ask, so do you have anything that you need to bring up? No, I'm good. And then it's just, but by the time that we're done, we've gotten into a conversation about different things, setting goals, figuring out what it is that's going on, how to be able to navigate through a certain situation. And then I also allow for feedback, right? So not always depends on what it is. So because sometimes people just need to own whatever emotions are coming up. So we're not necessarily looking for answers. Sometimes people are just simply looking for an outlet to be able to share whatever it is that's going on. And so sometimes I don't allow the feedback. It all depends. And I just seem to know what is helpful and what is not helpful. But that's also comes with experience, right? So I've been doing this since 2001, even though the this particular program is new. I've been doing these strategies since 2001. So with experience has come some knowledge that has allowed me to be able to have that insight as to what it is to be able to do. But but it's just amazing, right? So it's amazing to be able to see from their perspective what it is that's going on. And so we don't always get testimonials because some of the journey is private, right? So that's one of the things that I find really, really challenging sometimes, especially like with promoting. It's like, okay, well, how do we know that it works? And so I can share a little bit about some of the outcomes, but I can't go into a lot of detail because I want to maintain that privacy of the people within our group, because that is inherently important to me, is that we do not share outside of the group what it is that people are talking about or what it is that's going on, because otherwise we're not going to be able to move through it if we're afraid that somebody's going to copy and paste our message that we had put into the group and copy and paste our different situations or whatever like that. They're going to start talking about that outside of the group, because that is extremely important for us to be able to build that trust. And so whenever I say the doors are opening, again, that little bit of anxiety comes up for some of the ladies. It's like, oh no, who knew is coming into our group? I don't know if I want somebody new coming into our group, because in the 3 months, because the doors open for a short period and then they close. So like right now they're going to open Sunday, and then they're going to close 10 days later, and then they don't reopen again until the spring. But during that time frame, no one else is allowed to come in, and so and we don't officially start until the change of the season. So in this particular case with December, we're going to be starting on December 22nd, even though the change of the season is a little earlier than that. But just because of holidays and stuff, we're going to do the 22nd. And then we start our weekly sessions after that. But it's like that anxiety of like, oh no, somebody new is coming. Right. So,
well, that's where they practice what you've already taught them, so they can just relax and go with the flow. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was looking at Nikki's testimonial to you, and I laughed when I read it, because I went, this is so beautiful for just everything you do and what, you were saying through all of this. Nikki says, I'm not sure if it's her expertise or her demeanor, but I found myself thinking of switching to all of Rollie's programs and getting rid of my therapist. Programs are easy to follow and you don't feel like your voice or concern gets lost in the masses. And that's what I'm hearing from everybody. And, Brenda says she always feels comfortable being with you and in your groups because she's not judged. She's not made to feel less than. And she's never feeling like she's off in a corner while everybody's over here in a clique, So whatever magic you're working in these lives, it's beautiful. And so when we talk about this whole group, and I know we open on Sunday, but, what is the benefit to them if they said, I'm in, let's go, let's give it a run for the quarter, or though you have a year option as well. So why would somebody this is what I need?
So if you're ready to take action and you really want things to change, so if you've been stuck in that rut and you can't seem to get out, this is definitely the best program for you to be able to be in. And again, I know that some people get really overworked or overwhelmed with being in a group setting. So some people really struggle with that group setting, but the group setting really helps you to not feel isolated. So that's a really big benefit of being in the group setting. And then depending on whether or not you sign up for the quarterly or the annual, there's different options. And so depending on the level that you choose, is that we have the seasonal, everybody gets the seasonal divinity box. So the seasonal divinity box is a box full of little surprises and goodies that you get every quarter. And so somebody can purchase through Divine Crystal Healing Shop, you can purchase just the seasonal divinity box if you just want a box full of goodies. But it was designed specifically to help support our women inside Soulful Life Hacks. So if ever, for whatever reason, we decide that we're not going to be running them in Divine Crystal Healing Shop, it will still be a package inside these Soulful Life Hacks, because in there I give different tools. So some different crystals, sometimes it's essential oils, sometimes it's candles, sometimes it's the smudging kits, sometimes it's decks and cards, and like, so there's always some different things in there that allow you to be able to use some of the tools that I teach through using throughout the year. And so some people are familiar with some of them, some people are not familiar with them at all. And so there was a couple of boxes that I also included extra courses. And so, but people were not, even the people that were using them, were not signing up for them for the courses and stuff. So even though it was free, people weren't signing up. So we've removed those. But there's always little goodies. And so like, that's one of the bonuses for being in Soulful Life Hacks. But the biggest thing is that transformation. So if you have been trying to work through the different things that you have going on and you have been struggling for some time, then this is definitely someplace where it's going to take you to the next level. And it doesn't matter whether or not you are familiar with some of the things that I teach. And again, I'm huge on you take what you need and you leave the rest. So if something that I've shared doesn't resonate with you, then you don't use it. It's not about you. And that's one of the things that I really love about being able to have that holistic connection and having that soulful connection, is that what looks soulful to you is going to look different than what soulful looks like for me. And it's going to look soulful. It's going to look different for the person who is beside you. So it all kind of depends on what that looks like. So we have some people who go to church and follow everything to do with church, and that is and that means everything to them. Whereas other people have connection with the universe. Some people have connection with the angels. Some people have connections with different deities. And so it doesn't matter, because we're not there to figure out what exactly it is. And sometimes we learn from each other. So sometimes somebody will be talking about something and it's like, hey, share that a little bit. And so then we learn from each other. But it really is about what is that connection. And so there are 4 parts of ourselves. And so we have our mind, body, heart, and soul. And that is extremely important in terms of us being able to be whole. And so when I worked in mainstream mental health, is that we would only be able to work on certain parts of things, right? So we wouldn't be able to like bring in that, encompass the whole part of things. And so Brenda, who had given a testimonial, that was one of the things that she had talked about, was because it was coming from her own background as to what it is that works for her. And so being able to use that component and figuring out like what works for her and what is her baseline, or what is her understanding. And so then we build from there and we grow from there. And so that is extremely important for us to be able to do. And so like, I do not follow Wiccan practices, although some of the things that I do fall under that kind of practice. So because a lot of them are similar. There's a lot of things that are the ritualistic things that are similar, but I don't follow any kind of Wiccan or pagan practices per se. And so, but we do have some people who do. And so then it's like, so we can learn from each other. And it's like, and again, you take what you need and you leave the rest. If it doesn't resonate with you, then it kind of moves on. And one of the things that I have learned by doing this is that a lot of times, a lot of these things intertwine. So I grew up Catholic. And so there's a lot of different things that we would do in the church that are very much those ritualistic, same type of practices, using different tools or using different names, or you have the practices a little bit different than some other people that are using them. So it's like, oh, okay. So like, this is like, right. So it's like, this is similar too. Right. So it's really interesting to be able to see how all of these practices kind of come together and connect in some form, right? So not necessarily 100%, but it just kind of gives a little bit of a perspective. So But it's like being able to focus on our mind, right? So thinking about what are our thoughts? What is it that's going on? What's keeping us up at night? And trying to figure out, and then our body. So what is it that we're doing to be able to get back on track? So anybody who is inside the mind, body, heart, and soul connection knows that I've been doing a 2021 reset into 2022, and that's my own thing. And I've been sharing my own journey as to what it is that I'm doing. And some people have been able to adapt some of the things that I've shared. So it's not like on a continuous basis, or that you know that I'm going to be sharing something every Monday or whatever. I'm just sharing how I'm adapting and changing, simply because this year has been a little rougher than I would like it to be. And so just being able to kind of shift and change. And so with COVID on top of all of that, it's just how do I get myself back on track, because I'm not doing the things that I would normally do. And so, and then we've got mind, body, and the heart, right? So like if we, and the heart part is everybody seems to think, because a lot of the people that are in our group, are women. And so a lot of times it's like, okay, well, if I keep loving all these other people and then if I can love on them and everything will be good and everything will be great, except for that when we're loving on them, we are not, and we're not loving on ourselves, then we're not moving farther ahead, because we need to unconditionally love ourselves. And so where I focus on the heart part is really about being in that heart center, in that heart space. And it is usually internalized. And so that is focusing on ourselves that way, as opposed to always worrying about what's best for everyone else.
Yeah. And that's typical for women. You know, we always want to be taking care of the other people, and we forget the self-care and investing in ourselves. And, you know, that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. I had to realize if I didn't take care of me, I can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's not selfish to have self-care. It's not weak to ask for help. And we were not meant to be an island. And that's something that a lot of people I've seen, especially through COVID, is coming back in and being alone and isolated. And then they wonder why now there's depression, anxiety, fear. They started drinking or whatever, because they've not allowed other people to be part of their world at this point. So bringing in this, even though it's virtual, you're not all sitting in the room together, this is a powerful tool for everyone right now, because we're coming through this COVID, right? This journey that was supposed to be so many weeks, and now how far are we? You know, and it doesn't seem to want to end. But then you got the holidays, and then what we know for a fact is when it comes into January is the highest rate of depression.
Yeah.
Because now all the hustle and bustle's gone. Perhaps we've spent too much money, and everything just comes to a grinding halt in January. And how awesome to have something like Soulful Life Hacks to come to and have a community that it's women that are in the same position or same type of issues. And we can come together with these struggles, our fears, our worries, and all this, and come together in one group with an amazing leader and heal and grow with each other, which is powerful. Because the one thing I've always told women is that women that are empowered, inspired, and encouraged are unstoppable. Once we can build each other up, and I really believe that was the design, is that, you know, we see these days that women are tearing each other down instead of building each other up for whatever reason got into their head. But I know if I build you up, Rollie, then I get built up by it. Because then I'm encouraged, I'm inspired. Oh my gosh, look at her grow. I can grow there. You know, maybe there's an area that I was afraid to grow in, but because I see you moving, why can't I? You know, and I always say, imagine if you had a great group of people around you. What could you do? And I love the fact that when I looked at the sales page and just everything you talk about here, he says that what sets Soulful Life Hacks apart from many other programs out there is it's designed to give you complete control of your journey and your outcome.
Yep.
Wow. You're telling me that I can have control over where I end up tomorrow.
And it really makes a huge difference, right? So like when we can actually take back control, because a lot of times we are completely powerless, or we're feeling completely powerless. And so depending on the circumstances, depending on what it is that's going on, is like how we're going to be able to move forward, right? So so within the program, some people have been able to set boundaries that they've never been able to set before. Or some people have actually been able to like blossom and shoot towards the stars and start their own business. And so it all depends on what is it that you want. And that wasn't even when they came in. That's not even where they were going, right? Like that's not even what their expectation was. It was just, I'm tired of being stuck and I've been doing the same thing over and over again. And so a statement that I've been using a lot in this last couple of weeks is doing the same thing. Is that the quote of doing the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. It's not going to change if you do not make the changes. And so, but in order for us to be able to make those changes, we need to be able to identify what is it that's going on and how do we move forward. And so each season we start off with, so like when we start and we do our opening ceremony, we do that welcoming of everybody into the circle. And then what happens is then we have an exercise, and they look different each time, but an exercise of basically trying to find out like what's our goal for this month, like for this season. And so over the next 3 months, what's going to happen? And so we have our final group session for this past season before the new season starts. And so on the 13th, we're going to be going through and talking about what is it that has happened. And so when everybody starts sharing, and this is kind of like based on what everybody starts sharing, what they want their goals to be, what they want things to happen, is that there's always seems to be a common theme as to what is going on. And so the common theme for this season is a stronger me. And so we actually go through on the 13th and figure out like, how did you become a stronger you? And so we pick those things out, and different times, again, depending on what it is that's going on in the circle, is that we then have, sometimes I've had where everyone else gets to express what do they see in their teammates, what do they see in their group. And so that and that is powerful in itself, because it's not about judging, so it's not a judgment thing, but it's like, this is where I've seen somebody grow and how I've actually seen people come out of their cocoon. And so we have a couple of ladies who literally are completely inward. And so they keep to themselves, and except for that, both of them share, right? So like these ladies share externally now, whereas before it was like everything was internalized. And then you have people like me, and because there are people like me in the group, and they are completely externalized, right? So like they're going to share what it is that's going on. And so anybody who is friends with me personally on Facebook sees that I share everything. And so I would be at different times through, and even still now, I will sometimes have people comment of like, you share too much, you give too much information, you talk too much about what it is that's going on. Oh, well, that's just what it is, right? So as much as I love my husband was unfaithful, and I do not hide that. And I know he gets really, really annoyed with that. He's like, seriously, do you need to tell the world? It's like, yeah, I do, because that's part of my journey. That is part of what it is that has happened for me. And that has made me to where it is that I am now, because I was always very strong and independent. And when that happened, that broke me. And I really struggled. And I had, and that was at one point where I needed to be back on medication, because that literally broke me. And so I needed to be able to come back out of that. And so with that, with those different situations, then I had to go back for therapy, and I had to go through medication, and I had to deal with all those things, because that really tore apart who I was in terms of an identity. And within all of my mental health, I have never struggled with being suicidal, but I was then. I was like, because at the same time I was dealing with my son who was struggling with addictions, and like there's all these things that were happening, and I was really struggling with what I was in terms of my own identity and figuring out where I needed to be. And so I share my journey, and I often get people that say, "Oh, I'm so sorry about that," or and it's like, but I'm not sharing it because I'm looking for anybody to be sorry. It's just being able to share what it is that's going on. And so because I know that I'm not the only one who's had those struggles. I am not the only one who has had those struggles. So this year, a lot of it is about grief for me, with having lost my dad and all the different things that have actually gone on, and now having lost my uncle. And so like all these different things of all these emotions that are coming up, and having to deal with it. And so having those different perspectives sometimes helps us to be able to identify what it is that's going on. And as much as I'm okay with my dad having been like my dad dying, I'm okay with that part because he's no longer suffering, but I still miss him. And there's all that stuff that kind of comes with it as well. And so whenever I get the notion and I'm sharing, then I'm sharing. And so some people don't like that. But that's just who I am. And that works for me. And outwardly sharing is something that's really important for me to be able to process whatever it is. And so we have other people that are like that, but other people who are more internalized. And so being able to draw out some of those conversations is also really important. So again, not opening up entirely like myself, but just being able to have those opportunities to have that safe space to be able to share where it is that we need to share.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of every program that Rollie offers. She's coming to you from a place of reality where she's been transparent and she lives what she teaches. And I think that's really important to anybody out there that's trying to help us through things. You know, if we haven't had struggles, or if everybody's had struggles, everybody's dealt with anxiety, they've dealt with some form of depression, we've all been there. But the problem is so many times we hide our journey that we've been on, when our journey is what makes us more powerful, it makes us stronger, and it also brings so much credibility and value to what you offer.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't jumped on these programs, and even just start with Soulful Life Hacks. I know we're closed for Sister Soul Medicine, but that's been an amazing journey so far for them as well. But it all comes down to, you know, the fact that you live what you teach, that you are willing to say, I struggle with anxiety, and these are my tools, and I'm just going to share them with you because hopefully they help you like me. You're not somebody who's got some degree from a book trying to tell somebody they're going to be okay. Because if you aren't willing to share your struggles, then how do we know we're going to be okay? So honestly, guys, I don't see many people, and I've been on teams with a couple of people that work on it with anxiety, and I have never seen somebody as transparent as you.
Oh, thank you.
And that's beautiful. And I know it's hard because, you know, even when I share part of my journey, even for the past 3 years with cancer and lymphedema and no cartilage in my knees, you know, it's been a hell of a run, you know?
Yeah.
But there's still hope at the other end. And that's exactly what you're bringing. You've struggled with anxiety, you've struggled with depression, you struggled that season with, you know, the thoughts of suicide. But where are you right now? You are empowering and helping others to get through the same thing you've come through. And that's powerful. So if you're on the fence about programs and you're like, I don't know about Soulful Life Hacks, it's the holidays, and, you know, I need to take care of all these people. What if this year we stopped and we took care of ourselves so that we could better care for those around us? What if? Can you imagine your life in a different place? Can you imagine being part of a group of women that struggle like you do. They aren't going to judge you. I've never seen Rollie judge anybody or scold them or tell them they're less than, you know. She's always finding the amazing in all of us. So why not give this gift to yourself and make 2020 just totally amazing? I think we could all rock it out. Even if all this crazy that's been going on continues going, doesn't mean we have to partake of it, right?
Yep. And I'm going to reiterate, though, that we're not going to make 2020 amazing because that's already come and gone, and we don't want to go back there. We're going to go 2022.
Time, it's like, oh my goodness.
I don't want to go back to 2020.
No. Next, forward. I'm sorry. I thought about that when I said it, and I'm like, what are you saying? Yeah.
So I'm glad I'm not the only one who has those those moments, right? So it's like, yeah, that's not what I meant. Moving forward into 2022 is like so important for us to be able to do. And so like this is a really good opportunity. And I know that people struggle with the financial, like you said, at this time of the year, it's that financial. And so I have different people that say, well, I don't know if I can do this. And if you can't, you can't. Like if you really can't, seriously can't. But like, but I pay for my coaches. I do my my sessions because I need to make sure that I'm moving forward as well. And if I'm not looking after me, then I can't help look after anyone else. And so those are the things that are like extremely important for us to be able to do as well. And so, yes, there's like on the surface of like, these are all the things that you get for joining Soulful Life Hacks, except for that, I can guarantee you that there's always extras. And so there's very, very seldom do I ever cancel a session for social. So like during holiday season and things like that, we still typically, unless the group says. And so like in the almost 2 years that I have been doing Soulful Life Hacks is that I think I've had to cancel like 2 sessions. And that's because of like, so one was my dad and then the other was, I was really sick. And so like, there was like, and that's it. Like, so even if I'm coming in like not well, I'm still showing up for this one. Other classes I cancel, but these I never cancel. Like these are sessions that I hold true, and I look forward to my Wednesdays. And depending on the group, we may have to change the date and have a secondary session so that people can accommodate time zones and things like that. So it always depends on who we have. Everybody right now is in the same time zone, so we're good. But if we need to accommodate for time zones, then once we have people registered, then the date may adjust, like we may have 2 dates. And again, it's that commitment. Like for Soulful Life Hacks, that is like my biggest commitment that I have. And so much so that on the 15th, which is where we're supposed to be having our final session, is that I've been invited to speak in a grief summit. And so on the 15th, and it was like, first, let me check with my girls and see whether or not we're going to be able to do that. So we've moved it to the 13th. But had anyone had said like, no, that's not going to work for me, then we would have still moved ahead with that particular date. And so then somebody said, well, what about that other class that we do on Mondays? And I was like, well, that other class is definitely canceled because this one isn't. And that's because like this one supersedes anything. So Soulful Life Hacks supersedes any other program that I have. So that is a priority. And the other benefit with Soulful Life Hacks is that you have access to me outside of that group session as well, because we have that private group. And I go in and I check in to see where things are going. And so during the time frame, and this is the other part about the community, is like during the time frame that my dad was dying and we were dealing with all that stuff. And so there was a couple of people that had like an abundance of like, hey, there's a couple of things that are going on, and everybody came together and supported that person. So by the time that I got there and said, okay, I'm here and I'm present, there wasn't a whole lot that I needed to say to be able to support that person, because they had already been supported by the group, which is amazing.
And that's what community is all about. And I think that is probably one of the strongest pieces to this, is knowing you're not alone.
Yeah. And that's huge, right? So like knowing that you are, because one of the things is that I was coming from a professional background when I had, so in 2014, when it was like I couldn't handle anything anymore, and had to go for care. Like I was in treatment for 9 months, trying to recover the things that I had to go through and getting things stabilized, and including with medication at that point. And so being able to, apparently somebody's trying to call me. So
You want to be on the air?
I can join, I can like link you in if you'd like. So but yeah, so like it's but it's really incredible of being able to have that support, and being able to kind of move forward. And but yeah, so I'm a little bit biased, obviously, because I've seen the growth that my my clients have actually gone through, and I love it. I love being able to see how much that they grow, and how they're actually able to move forward. And that is, and one of the things that you had said is earlier was that, like, I don't chastise people for not being able to do what it is that they have set out to do, because it's their journey, it's not my journey. And so yes, I will encourage you to be able to take that step forward. And but we also then go back and celebrate the little wins, right? So so somebody who was struggling with boundaries and still said yes to something that they really didn't want to, except for that it took them longer to say yes. That's a little win, right? That's a little win. And so like, it's all those little things of like, what kind of little wins can we have so that we can actually then continue to propel forward? And so how do we move forward? So
that's important, celebrating the wins. And, you know, I think one of the pluses to this community too is there's things that go on in our lives that, I know with me, I talk to my husband about everything, you know, but sometimes there's things that I know emotionally he won't understand, you know, or, you know, maybe you have that BFF, for lack of a better word, that you'd share with, but there's just some things that, you know, in your heart, they're not going to get you. They're going to be like, well, why don't you just do that? And what I love is that you're offering this place that we can come to you and just say, here's where I'm at.
Yep.
Help me. And you're going to get genuine, heartfelt, valid help, not judgment.
And the other thing too that I want to add to that is that sometimes people don't even get the it's sometimes not even that they're looking for the help, they just need to be heard. And which is why I said sometimes, like, we don't give feedback. There's certain times, depending on what the circumstances are, we don't give feedback. We just, thanks for sharing, and thanks for being in that space, and thanks for being vulnerable. And because sometimes we do not need anything else. We do not need that that feedback. We just need someplace safe that we're not being judged in this particular moment.
Yeah. And I think we all need to be heard. So, and I just think we open Sunday. So watch your email, guys. If you're not on the email list, you can go to rollieallaire.ca and sign up there just for the free, and then you're on the list. So that's that. But I want to wrap it up. We want to go back to who you are. And I want you to share the funniest thing you've ever done.
There's lots.
Oh,
there's lots. So there's lots. So actually, and the very first thought that comes to mind is being in high school. So I'm actually going to take it back all the way back to high school. Is that I had like the best friend, and absolutely miss this person dearly. I don't get to have contact with this person. However, so like we used to do little things. And so like when we were in school, there was no texting going on. Our texting was that we would actually use part of the big long paper, and then we would have like these fancy ways of folding it up with all of our notes going back and forth, and like we'd pass in the hallway or in the classroom or whatever, and we'd pass them along. Whereas like now the kids now text. And so that was our texting version. And so so we had different things, and we were passing our notes and stuff back and forth, and I don't know to this day, I don't remember what it was that was going on, but we were walking in the hall, and it had something to do with one of our notes that had gone back and forth, and I started laughing so much, and I was laughing and laughing and laughing, and that I couldn't breathe. I was laughing so hard that I couldn't breathe. And so then I literally scrouched down onto the floor, and I was in the hallway still laughing my head off. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And so like my best friend at the time was like, Rollie, what are you doing? And I'm like, I can't breathe. And it's like, okay, but why are you on the floor? Because I can breathe better down here. And they're like, what? Like, so even in high school, I was like, take it as I am. And except for that, and that's not true, because in high school, I was always trying to fit in and figure out, the same as most of us, except for that I had that core group of people that I could be who I am without having any judgments, and that I can just be who I am. And so that is the energy that I bring forward with my clients, because I want them to be who they are. And it doesn't matter whether I agree or disagree, or that somebody else agrees or disagrees. It is simply who it is that you are, and what it is that is important to you, and how to be able to make it work so that you can have what it is that you want in terms of life.
And I just learned too that once I hit like 55, and the closer I'm at 57, getting ready for that big 6-0, I am who I am. And you don't like me, there's a door. Because you try to fit in all your life, and you end up, we just need to be who we are.
Yeah.
I wish I would have learned that when I was younger. Stop trying to fit in, be you, because there's only one you. So let's see, your last question for today, because I know we've been chatting here for a while, but it's so much fun to talk to you and be unscripted and just hang out. And hopefully everybody's enjoying just chatting with Rollie, just getting to know a little more. So what is it today that you have the most fun doing? What makes you laugh and be filled with joy?
So I love doing anything that to do with kids. So like if there's kids around, and so like I love my kids program, but I love just being able to jumping on and having conversations. And so one of the ladies who jumps on my lives all the time is Francine, and she's not on. And so another person that used to jump on all the time pre-COVID was Lonnie. And I just love having those conversations. And so I really enjoy jumping on Sundays and doing the weekly card pull, because it's just simply just me. And that's how it started off, with like, hey, I'm just doing this. And so then it just became and now it's a habit. And so I have a number of people who are on the list that I pull a card for every week. And so, but it's just having the conversations as we go along. And so some Sundays I'm more chatty than others. All depends on where my brain's at that particular moment. But I just love being able to do that. And so if Alexis happens to be here on that day, then she's in and she's helping me pull cards. And sometimes she's distracting. Sometimes it's like, you can't come back in here. I can't do that. But then the next time that she comes, then I still let her come in anyway. But yeah, so I think that's probably, I love doing the cards on Sunday. And so I do those inside the Facebook group. I used to do them on the business pages, and but now I do them just inside the Facebook group. And simply because there is a couple of times that, because there's so much spammy people, like even while we're having this, like I've had to block a couple of people that were like trying to spam people. Like, I'm not interested in having you spam. So inside the group, I have better control that way in terms of not having those spammy conversations of like, hey, I've got herpes. Like, did you want to join me? Right? Like, no, thanks. Not interested.
Get on board with that one. Wow. Well, this has been fun. I hope you've had a good time just being different. It was all about you today. As we can celebrate you, wrapping up, 2021. I wanted to make sure you were celebrated. People got to know a little more about you, fun stuff about you, but also let them know about Soulful Life Hacks, because I'm really excited to see the outcomes from, the group this round on the 13th, but also the next group coming in. And even as I stay with you through the next season, just excited to see change in people's lives, because that is inspiring, I think, to everyone,
And it really is. I love being able to see that. And so I just, inside the comments is that I just added in the link for the Facebook group, the private Facebook group, so that if you can't join Soulful Life Hacks this time around, then at least come and join us inside the Facebook group, because I do jump on sporadically and just have different things. And so and sometimes there's like scheduled things, but for the most part, it's like I just kind of sporadically just jump in and post something or share something, or jump on a live. And so there's lots of things, and and so the group is renamed. So for anybody who was in my group before, it was called the Holistic Wellness Lounge. And so it was renamed just because like things had actually evolved in that group so much. So, and I had people inside the group help me rename it. So it's Mind, Body, Heart, and Soul Connection is, and I love that name. So I love the fact that, and it was somebody in the group that actually came up with that name. So it wasn't my choice. Well, it was my choice, obviously, but it was like, it was a poll. And so we had, and that was one of the names that, cause it's like, hey, if you have any other ideas of what we can name, because I had provided a few names, and that was one of the names that someone else jumped in, and other people went like, hey, I really like that. So that's our name of our group now. So, but yeah, so it's a free group, and you just need to sign in. If you're not in it, you do need to answer the questions. If you do not answer the questions, you stay in the pending for a little while, and then we remove you in the pending, because you have to answer the questions in order to join. If you don't answer the questions, because we don't want spammy people joining us. So if you are not willing to answer the questions, then that means that we don't know that you are, because we have so many people that are, and spam isn't I guess technically it's spam, but it's the, those people that are not real.
Yeah.
I can't think. Yeah. So like, we just want to make sure that, and if you're not answering the questions and just answering yes, 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 then you don't come in. Sorry. That's just the way that it is.
No, and I love that, because it's just been watching the interaction, and the title of it is perfect, because it is a connection. You're connecting to the people, connecting to each other. And that's how we grow.
Yeah.
And we heal. We need people to heal.
Me too.
I believe that. So, but I'm excited. Just keep your eyes open, guys, on social, on email. We're going to open up on Sunday, and it's going to be an amazing season in Soulful Life Hacks. And 2022, why not make it the best year yet?
Yeah.
And with an amazing group.
Well, and one of the things is I have not yet learned enough about numerology, but 2022 from a numerology perspective apparently is a good sacred number. So like I haven't learned exactly what it is, so I have to go and find my numerologist friends to find out more about it. But because numerology is one of those tools I have not yet ventured into. It's on my to-do list, because I'm always learning I'm always learning new techniques, new tools, and learning new perspectives. So.
Yeah, you definitely have to share what 2022 with the numerologist is. I know I keep seeing 1111 popping up everywhere all of a sudden this week. And I think that's an angel number or something.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. So I'm like, okay, what are you trying to tell me? So, but
where did I put my books? Right here. So 1111. So this one here doesn't go to 1111, but if you actually just look up the 11, if I can find it, because apparently I can't find 11. So stay positive. Your thoughts are materializing rapidly. So you want to ensure positive outcomes by focusing only on the good within you, within yourself, others, and the situation. And that's from this Angel Messages book. But the other part of it is that when you see 1111, it's make a wish. So it's like finding a falling star.
Okay. It's like 111 or 1111.
Yeah.
It'll be like on the coffee pot. I'll go to make a cup and it's 1111. I'm like, okay. And then you'll go to make, go to bed and it's 1111, and it's just been popping up everywhere. So,
well, and 111 in the book says this number brings you the urgent message that your thoughts are manifesting instantly. So keep your mindset focused upon your desires. Give any fearful thoughts to heaven for transmutation.
Well, cool. I'm going to have to remember that, because I'll have to make sure we're coming up in the next hour. We get that 111. So I'm like, ooh, I don't know the numerology stuff, but I just know a lot of people talk about the 11.
Yeah. So, and 11 is a sacred number. So 11 in itself is that sacred number. And so, but through numerology, there's other things around the numbers and things. And so like I guess that's one of the other things too, is that I don't pretend to know it all either, is that I have different resources that are here. If you look behind me, I've got resources coming out from Yang. And so like I've got them. And so like same as with crystals, I don't always know what they are. I use my intuition as to which one it is that I want to connect with today. But I look it up. So, or I just simply go with, okay, well, this is the energy that I need today. And so, but I never pretend to know it all, because I can't know it all.
Right. No, that's awesome. But definitely do the 2022 and then let us know. Because now everybody that's going to watch this and is with us live now is sitting there going, well, what does it mean? What are we going to see? Now you've piqued our interest here,
Okay, well, I'll go and check out some of my numerologist friends that I follow and see what they have coming up for 20, because I just haven't had time to be able to go and look it up. So I will go and find out what they're saying about 2022.
Yep. Now that you mentioned it, we're at all to it. So, but awesome. We so appreciated the fact that you let the team take over on you and pretty much just tell you to show up and not know what you were going to head into, because we've been unscripted this morning and just kind of going with whatever comes into my head and whatever comes into yours. So we thank you for being willing to play with us a little and share soulful life hacks with us. But as we wrap up, anything you want to close out for folks watching, just to inspire them for the day?
So one of the things that I want to remind everybody during this holiday season, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, is just be able to stop and take time for you during this time frame, because we often get lost in the hustle and bustle, including people who do not celebrate, because of all the busyness and craziness that everybody else is experiencing, that we then just kind of like get absorbed into that energy. So just stop, take some time to breathe, take some time to just stop and be, have a cup of tea, whatever it is that you need, just to be able to just stop and slow things down and just be present.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rollie, for playing with us today. And hopefully y'all enjoyed the time with her, and just maybe something you learned that you didn't know. But we'll probably do it again. This has been fun. If you'll let us.
Absolutely. I love to chat, remember?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay. No, it's been awesome. And you're just so much fun to be caught off guard with questions you don't know. I thought about sending you questions and I thought, no.
Well, and I don't do that with chatting with wisdom, right? So like when somebody's coming in, they're like, hey, what questions are you going to ask me? I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, that's kind of go with the flow. Better, because we're not sitting there trying to go, okay, what's next? We just chat, and I love conversation. So I just figured that's what you do to guests. So if we're going to take over the reins, let's do the same thing.
Sounds good.
But it's been a blast.
Thanks so much, Robin. And I truly appreciate you being on my team. And I know that my clients have appreciated being in contact with you and having learned and having to to kind of take over very quickly, because I have lots of moving parts going on, and you're still learning as we're moving along. But it's been great. So thank you so much.
Nope, it's my
Bye,
pleasure.
everybody.
It's been fun.
Talk soon.
Bye.